I met so many speech therapists and they were interested, but they said yes, but then you stop singing and then the stuttering is as before. So you can't go to the you can't go to the shop or uh, to you can't buy your bread during when you sing. Yeah, maybe it would be nice, but you don't do that.
Welcome to Some Stutter Law, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about living with communication differences. It is a production of the Communication Collaborative and is in solidarity with the Newfoundland and Labrador Stuttering Association. My name is Greg O'Grady. I'm a person who stutters and your host. Some Stutter Law is a unique opportunity for us to discuss topics, experiences, and perspectives on what it is like to live with communication differences, to live with a disability, but also to uplift and inspire, to rebuild confidence through inclusive language and themes, and to install hope by dismantling myths, stigma, stereotypes, and barriers surrounding speech, language, and disability challenges. Some Stutter Law is a safe space to speak and to own your truth, a safe space to communicate differently without the fear of being judged or feeling shame. If you only get one thing from this podcast, we hope it's this. It's okay to stutter and it's okay to communicate differently. It's not how we communicate that's important, it's the message that's important. So let's communicate differently without the need to ask permission or to apologize for being you. For more information about the Communication Collaborative or this podcast, you can find us at somestutterlaw.ca. Today, Some Stutter Law welcomes Dr. Simone Falk. Dr. Falk is a trained linguist and an associate professor in neurolinguistics at the University of Montreal, Canada, and member of the International Laboratory for Brain, Music, and Sound Research. Since her PhD on infant-directed singing and language acquisition at the Ludwig Maximilian University, Munich, Germany, her research seeks to reveal phonetic acoustic as well as cognitive and neutral links between music and speech in production and perception. She currently investigates rhythmic capacities and singing in children, adolescents, and adults who stutter with the aim to better understand the relation between speech, musical, and motor rhythms, and their impact on speech acquisition and communication. She currently holds a Canada Research Chair in the Interdisciplinary Studies on Rhythm and Language Acquisition. Welcome, Simone, to Some Stutter Law.
Thank you so much to being.
Simone,
it's exciting to be with you today.
Thank you. I'm laughing to myself because just reading your bio, there's a lot of sounds I have difficulty with. So it's quite the challenge, but anyhow, it's a worthwhile challenge. Dr. Simone, for our listeners, who are unfamiliar, including myself, to be very transparent. Can you share a little about your research in singing and stuttering and music and stuttering?
Sure. I am doing research on singing since I did my PhD. So maybe I can start with myself because I'm a singer myself. So I trained as a singer. I was 11-year old. I tried to do some musical curriculum. I was trained as a lyrical singer, and I really loved singing so much. It was something that was just changing my life. I was not in that position to go into professional musicianship. That was nothing I wanted to do, but it was always something that followed me. And when I get the opportunity to frame my own research program at the PhD, so I wanted to learn more about singing, because singing is very much between language and speech, and it's a little bit mysterious because you can't really say it's only music, and you can't really say it's really language. So it's because it's both of them. So I wanted to do some research on singing to understand better what this capacity, why we sing, what is that good for. And I learned that particularly in the very early infancy, the parents are, or the moms are singing a lot with the babies. So that was my research topic first, because I wanted to understand if we can learn language via singing, just not from speech, but also from song. I am somewhat starting with the idea that singing is useful because it makes positive feelings. It gives us access to words differently, so we can listen to meaningful content with a slightly different frame of mind. And also what happens between two people when the mom is singing to the baby, for example. So I thought that could give something we haven't yet looked at. So that was my first study on singing, or it's still ongoing because they're missing lots of missing bits and pieces to understand if language acquisition is really fostered by sung speech. On the other hand, I focused in my research. I focused on how we produce and perceive speech, and what time and rhythm gives to that practice. So my early research on stuttering was concerned with the question whether there are some rhythmic processes that could be named that are important to understand stuttering better. I had at that time a student who was doing a master degree in speech therapy and who was stuttering himself, so he was guiding me in this research, I could say. And at that point in time, I learned a lot about how stuttering happens, what it means to the people who stutter, what it does to conversation. And naturally, because I was, on the other hand, also doing my research on singing, I was then asking, yes, and what about singing in stuttering? So that was the moment where I understood that singing is some of the conditions where people who stutter experience less stuttering. So I didn't know that before, that it's like singing is one of these fluency enhancing conditions. And so I wanted to know more about that and what happens to the articulation when we sing, what could be a reason for why there's no stuttering or less stuttering. Say that's not true. There's no stuttering, right? But there's less stuttering when you sing. So I did my first study on that with kids, or it's more adolescents, yes, young adolescents who stutter, and that was the start of the research on singing and music and stuttering.
Interesting, doctor. When I was reading your research on singing and stuttering and music and stuttering, I was flooded with memories and experiences during my clinical treatment journey for my severe stuttering. And because I have taken the Fluency Plus program through the Toronto Speech and Stuttering Institute, and this is a specialized treatment program. And it's just for people who stutter. And it's interesting. In your research, you discuss classes of basic sounds and vowels and consonants, and the development of stuttering and prolongations. And it's interesting that while I was thinking about your research on singing and music, I began to have aha moments because I realized that that there is definitely a strong connection between stuttering and singing and music, and because my Fluency Plus program speech targets. I mean, often we actually use the rhythmic or to learn speech targets that in that really in that in many ways there's a chant to it as well. For example, one of my targets are the stretch syllable target, and this is where we stretch the sound out to up to two second syllable. For example, my name is Grady. And so really, if I'm understanding correctly, there's a definite kind of chant to it. You know what I mean? There's a chant. And so in your two research papers on singing and stuttering, you really reference a lot about this chant. Do you want to just elaborate on this a little bit?
I mean, you described it beautifully. So singing is some way to articulate where the syllable somehow is stretched in time, but not equally. So we don't stretch the consonants as we do with the vowels. Instead, the vowels get longer, and the consonants do not necessarily get shorter, but they get smoother. Or also the transitions between the consonants and the vowels and between the consonants are working differently. So that is what gives this chanting aspect. I think if you learn to speak with the fluency shaping strategy, right? Because you're stretching the vowels, and you're also trying to smooth or to get the onsets smoother or also a little longer depending on the onset. So singing is sometimes described as reducing the non-sonorous parts. That means everything what sounds harsh, or the consonants that are like interrupting the flow of sonority. And this is something that is quite different from speaking, where we have a lot of pauses in sonority in the sonorous part between syllables, because all the consonants take much more space, and that is attenuated in singing. So that is definitely a parallel between singing and fluency shaping strategy or program technique. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when I'm thinking about what we call a class for sounds, it's called plosives, for example, and like D for doctor. We in this program we use 5 targets, and it's the full breath target, gentle onset, stretch syllable, which is the key to this program, and the rap one, which is the reduced air pressure, because D is such a constant hard sound, like k or d, for example. So we try to reduce the air pressure, and rap two, which is the reduced articulatory pressure. But the more that I think about your study, so as I was mentioning, Simone, has opened up a whole new world for me. Your research on singing and music, because I never really thought about music, incorporating music and singing into therapy. Because when I was taking therapy, well, to be honest with you, most people and I shouldn't be painting everybody with the same brush, but when I started therapy, I went to therapy for treatment. Okay, I wanted my I focused on fluency, and I wanted to overcome my severe stutter because I still to this day consider myself a severe person who stutters. And but if I went initially, this is years ago now, a few years ago, when I went to therapy, and if my speech pathologist suggested that I incorporate singing and music into my program, I thought, well, I would question whether or not I would be favorable of this. Now, do you how do you sort of work with the speech language pathologist that's involved in your your research? Has any of this SLP incorporated your research findings at this point into their program?
Maybe can I ask a question? Did
Sure.
you did you then start to sing? Did you start to sing after that
No, no,
suggestion,
no,
or
no.
did you try?
Oh no, no, no. Oh no, we're actually going back years
Oh,
ago,
okay.
and but things have changed since then. Since then, but have you, has any of the SLPs that you work with have they started to incorporate singing and
So,
music into their program?
I mean, this research, there are very few people doing research on singing and stuttering. So, what I did with the study with the adolescents, we found as a result that I mean, singing with the task was that the adolescents or the participants should sing "Happy Birthday," and we gave them a specific text, so they had to change the names, which were with these famous plosives. Yeah, they had to sing "Happy Birthday, dear Tita, dear Tata, dear Tuta." So we made up names for them, and then we looked at how the consonants are produced during singing and when they spoke or just read the text. And we found that yeah, the very so the production of the plosives was more variable during the reading condition in the adolescent group who stutters, but the variability came down when they sang. So it was like the singing did stabilize the articulation, but only for these plosives. We didn't find anything for example, the vowel or the length of the utterance or the general variability in the utterance. It was specific to these plosives, and we were interpreting this finding in a way that we thought that the plosive is a very complex sound. Yeah, you have to move your articulators in a very specific way and time the different steps of producing a T or a P, because it has, you have to close up your vocal tract and then you have to build pressure and you have to release the pressure, and then the sound comes out like a explosion. That's why it's called plosive. So this is a very demanding sound generally for in terms of temporal sequence, how you should move along. So we thought that maybe singing is giving this temporal sequencing is the structuring in time is somehow eased by the fact that you're singing. That is in itself not a result that could help therapy in a way. So not
I see.
immediately. When we were thinking with my colleague Frank Rousseau and speech therapist Ramona Schreier, with whom we wrote an article on singing and stuttering, just to give ideas on perspective on this phenomenon, we were thinking also about the fact that there is also already some singing part in therapy when you use techniques, because you as you described it beautifully, we have this lengthening of the syllables. So that is, I think, where speech therapists are, I do all agree that everything that is working on the articulation and on the and on the elements that could enhance fluency, that is a good thing. But I think no one really would like to do singing right away, because yeah, I met so many speech therapists, and they were interested, but they said yes, but then you stop singing and then the stuttering is as before, so you can't go to the you can't go to the shop or you can't buy your bread during when you sing. Yeah, maybe it would be nice, but you don't do that.
But Simone, the more that I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that thinking now that singing may be a good target to work towards in terms of trying to I guess fine tune your voice, for example, that we use the stretched syllable, we have the full breath, we have to keep the breathing open. But I think when we're singing, it may help us to really sort of help to fine tune a speech target like the gentle onset by saying, mentally anyhow, my name is Greg O'Grady. Sing it a bit. So at least it also reinforces the speech target that you're working on. Now the reason why I'm saying that is we do use the methadone, that machine, and that helps us to fine tune the target. But the more I'm thinking about it, like I'm starting to feel more and more that there is a role for singing in treatment. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or
Yes, I think what you say is something that could be tested. Yes, that speech therapists try to come via singing to an articulatory technique, just to make you more aware of what you're capable of doing with your voice and your vocal instruments. So because it's also a technique. Yeah, singing is also a technique somehow. It is just coming more naturally, because already small kids, they sing. Yeah, we don't know really why, but they do. They do a lot. It's a lot. So I was also thinking that as there's so much room for trying new things, maybe in stuttering research and in therapy with singing, there could be also something for the smaller people. So even for singing with kids, so they could also maybe benefit from some singing training or some communication via singing, because they do it quite naturally. And it is really difficult to explain something to how to articulate to a small child. Yeah, you can't really do that with a kid that is not scholarized. I think there is something that could potentially be done. And also, I mean, singing in during therapy, for the moment, we have no idea if singing, intensive singing training could have an effect on how people articulate generally in speech. So even with people who do not stutter, I don't see any study that has investigated that. As if singers, for example, professional singers, I mean, that is something else, even because they have a very specific style in singing, but how that changes the way they articulate in everyday life, if ever there's a link between the two. So we know that singing is also doing or is you have other parts of your brain activated while you're singing, or maybe not other parts, but they are more activated, especially in the right hemisphere. We have some pathways that help us to integrate what we hear from ourselves and what we want to produce And these pathways, which help self-monitoring, are much, much more activated during singing. So this is something that some researchers say that this is the reason why fluency is so much enhanced during singing, because these pathways are helping to initiate the syllables better, or to be more on time with the syllables, and helping the whole process of fluent speech better. So that is something that could also be a question for future research to look into, how singing over a longer time and also more intensively could help train these aspects. But yeah, you need a special constellation. I think you need people who really like to sing. So singing is not for everyone. So you need someone who really likes it and who wants to try it. And you need also a therapist who really is open to that.
Correct, Simone. Yeah, and I'm also thinking as well. You see, when because we have learned so many speech targets we have to concentrate on, it can cause a lot of anxiety as well, because we're so trying to get the target sound straight, like full breath, gentle onset, and with me, when I get one of my issues is that when I get, I guess, so anxious, I allow my targets to go out the window. However, though, you do mention in your papers that singing does relax you, whether you're a singer or not. So I'm thinking now, as one of my speech targets, I could incorporate as a sort of as an adjunct to when I'm about to answer the phone, like start singing. It opens the vocal cord. It relaxes me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm saying so have that in conjunction with the speech targets. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for that. That is the other part that is very important to singing. That is has, as we could say, as any music, but as it is vocal, so we're producing it with our own body. It's not like we have no instrument. The body is the instrument. It has a very deep impact onto all our physiological processes, on emotions, and on as also potential anxiety or stress. So that is something that we are also very interested in, and I think that is the big potential for stuttering, that it could help people to find a better way to feel good with their voice. So I am a member of the Singwell consortium, which is an international collaborative project, which is steered by Toronto University. That's my colleague Frank Rousseau at Toronto Metropolitan University who gave life to this. But we have international partners also from Europe and from North America, and this consortium is interested in how singing, especially in a group, can help people with communication difficulties. So this is a 7 years project. It also includes people from choir, from musical associations, from choir associations, so musical directors, to build, for example, groups for people with, we have people with aphasia, Parkinson's disease, lung problems, and stuttering. So to build singing groups for these specific groups, in order to help some processes in enhancing their well-being, their also social inclusion in a group. And music is very, very good at that. So singing together, and I think I'm the team leader of the stuttering sub part. So I think that specifically singing together in a group, despite singing at home under the shower, which is also very nice.
It is, yeah.
yeah, could help to improve some aspects of, yeah, to decrease the stress level. There are studies that singing in a group can decrease cortisol, which is the stress hormone in our body. There are also studies that show that, yeah, social processes, you feel more connected to a group, which in general can help you to feel more connected generally to your environment if you're part of a group that you like to go into practice music with. So
Mm, yeah,
these are aspects we think that, or I think that are especially important for people who stutter, who have psychosocial consequences of stuttering.
yeah.
Not everyone does, so
No, I
maybe
know.
those who feel
Mm.
more emotionally involved or stressed, they could particularly benefit from that.
Oh, definitely, Simon. Because I mean, I mean, anxiety is really associated with stuttering, and because I mean, the act of physical speaking, and so, but I'm starting to think more and more, and you see this, this is where I have you know, to applaud you for your research because I mean, reading your research papers has given me a whole new perspective on the value of singing and music, and so how how singing can be therapeutic in many ways, and I'm from a musical family,
Oh,
hard to believe,
mm-hmm.
and because I mean my father uh, uh, played the accordion. My father played the mouth organ. My brother were in their own bands. They had they played the guitar and the drums and things like that. But unfortunately, I was never gifted to play. But I loved to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I loved to sing. However, they told me I couldn't sing. But still, well, but I still sing. And but you're right, doctor. It does create a sense of a wellness about you, calms you right down. And so I'm thinking more and more that there is a definite role in adding singing to speech therapy. That's my thinking,
Mm-hmm.
anyhow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And doctor, you also mentioned music and stuttering. It's interesting what I'm learning reading your papers because I never really thought about the difference. I thought, well, singing is singing, singing is music, music singing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And your paper, uh, there's a significant difference. You want to talk a little bit about the music and stuttering, your research?
Yeah, so singing is part of music, is part of language too. So that way, what makes it so interesting. And music as 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 a as another way of communicating is something interesting in conjunction with, or also with a divergence that it has with speaking, or with the act of speaking and with language. So I wanted to know always what is in between these two. Yeah. So is there something that unites them? Is there music and language? Is it built on some same architecture? Because both seem so unique and so pervasive to the human species. Yes, we we all we all have language all the time. We have a lot of music, and so these two things that help us to express what we are experiencing, what we are feeling, what we want to do, what we want from others too. Maybe here language is a little bit better than than music. These are two way of communicating which should be better understood together. So that is my aim. If I can learn something from that and help understand what music and language have in common. So we know a lot about the architecture nowadays of in our brains for music and language. So it's interesting that it's not that different, yeah. But it's still, it seems so different, yeah. We gave it culturally very different values, very different ways to implement our communication. And you can also say language is better in some parts, and music is better for others. But what is interesting for my research, or what I think is most pervasive between the two systems, is rhythm. So the time domain, how we put the elements of language together, how we put the elements of music together, and also how when we produce it, yes, if we when we speak and when we play an instrument or when we sing, we have similar constraints for time. But music does something that speech hasn't generally. You have also a metrical hierarchy that is like beats that are inside the musical structure, which are less regular in language. So we don't have, we maybe there are some languages where you can feel the beat of speech too, but it's not in a way that you would like to dance with it. Yeah. You don't listen to someone giving a great speech and then you want to move with it. You never do.
Yeah, the passion has to be there.
Yeah. So rhythm or the time domain is something that unites them both the most. That's why my focus in this Canada's research chairs is rhythm and language acquisition. How we can get from rhythmic parts of language and rhythmic parts of music to words, for example, to phrases, how we segment that, how we build our repertoire of phonological units, how we detect the sounds of speech that are important at very, very early infancy. So that is something that I think should be looked at, because these are two ways of communicating, but they can both enhance our sense of time.
I see. So, Simone, what would be your long-term goals now? You've done your research. So, what would be the next steps now? Like the long-term goals? Would you like to see your research incorporated into the speech pathologist curriculum training, and then eventually into their therapy? What's the long-term goals?
I think first of all, I would like to contribute to better understand the processes underlying speech production, and stuttering really can very much help us to understand what is going on in time in the brain. Especially these temporal aspects, yes, when we speak, how we conceive time, how this rhythm of speech and is managed by our brains is such a complex aspect of language. It's such a very difficult motor part that has to be learned almost for 20 years to get there, yes, to be a fluent speaker of a native language. And it's for sure that if you have stuttering, I think this process is taking up much more time and much more space in your whole curriculum. That's why I think we should first understand how this temporal and rhythmic aspect can explain how we speak. And I would like to, for the music part, I would also like to understand better first what are the attitudes or the wishes of people who stutter towards music, because since the early times of stuttering research, everything is focused on speaking, yes, so it's all about speech. But is there, how do feel people who stutter about singing? Do they want to do music? For the moment, we have not a lot of data to know at all if people who stutter want to do music, or have they more opportunities to learn music or to sing together? Is there something that is a specific barrier for that? Because maybe if there are not so many opportunities, what can we know about later on if people who stutter can use music in their lives to improve an aspect either of the well-being or of the speaking, of the art techniques or the articulation? I think that is something I really would like to know in the near future. With Singwell, we're doing a survey on that. If someone wants to participate in that, we would be really, really grateful just to know more about how people who started sing or play music. It's just a questionnaire. So that is something I really would like to know. We also would like to know more about what does singing in the brain in when people start to sing. There are very few studies to look at this right now. So these aspects that could improve the articulation are not well known. I think we want to know about that. And I also would like to know whether such initiatives like group singing could help the social emotional to lower this burden of social emotional aspects of stuttering. And we are currently running a choir in Montreal for people who stutter. So that is a first step towards that, but we're really, really learning a lot.
Oh, great.
So it's
Congratulations.
it's a wonderful thing. So it's in association with the ABC, the Association Bégaiement Communication. I think Geneviève Lamoureux was this year or last year. She was also with you at your podcast.
She was, she was with interviewed by a colleague of mine, Liz.
Yeah.
Liz interviewed her. Yeah.
Yeah. So she helped us to set up a project with the ABC to build a choir, and we now have a second season running with a choir. So it's since September we have the choir running, and it's for adults for the moment. And in fall we want to open up for younger. So we want to go for adolescents and kids. We hope that will.
Simone, just thinking. So, are you looking to develop more choirs throughout the province, here in Newfoundland, for example?
Yeah.
Would you be open to that and developing a choir here?
That would be great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because I heard that in France. I mean, we had communicated that we were opening a choir in the French podcast of the ABC, featured by Geneviève Lamoureux and Judith Labonté, and then I got answers from France where some speech therapists try to set up choirs, and they said, "Oh, you do a choir study. What are your results? I want to learn about it because I want to do a choir. Can you give recommendations?" I said, "Oh, I would love to. I just don't have yet the results. I can't really tell you, except for the fact that it's really working well. So our choir members are really happy with it. So that is so wonderful to see."
So I'm wondering, Simon, when you talk about the member, how many members would make up a choir? Like, you're talking about numbers.
I mean, it would be a group of 10 is a good basis.
Oh, yeah. 10, okay.
Yeah. So this choir we are running as the specificity that it's really for people who stutter. So it's no one. Okay. For example, for the moment, we didn't allow anyone who's not stuttering.
And that makes sense because it is research. Research. Yeah.
Yes, and also, to be honest, Greg, it was one of the major motivations for some participants to come. because
Mm.
the idea is to offer a safe space, yes, where you can express yourself freely and you don't have to worry about how the others look at you, or they, because they just know about stuttering. Yeah, so you don't have to explain yourself. You can go and you are with people who are knowledgeable. So I think that was
Mm.
one of advantages that this choir was just for people who stutter for the moment. And we also observed, that's why we want to know more about attitudes about singing, for example, because we had not so many answers as we hoped to have, because people said, "Oh, I can't sing. Oh no, I don't go to a choir. I really can't sing," which is it is a general reaction that we observe also in other studies when we look for participants who have to sing, even if it's the
Yeah.
simplest thing, but it's somehow we have an unrealistic way of thinking about singing, that it has to be, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
One has to be perfect. One has
Yeah,
to be perfect, in other words. Yeah.
yeah, you should sing like Ed Sheeran if ever you sing, or I don't
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Okay.
So that is something we have trouble with, that people don't dare to sing, or
Mm.
they think they can't sing. Yeah, but
Mm.
singing is for everyone. Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely,
that is something we
definitely.
want to also to give a message out that uh, whatever you do in your life, you can always sing. If and this choir is not made for giving concerts or something. Yeah, so here, at least in Quebec, I don't know how it is in in Newfoundland, Labrador. If you go to choir, often there are concerts. Then you have to do to prepare for some stage experience. So
New, Newfoundlander Simone loves the music. They love their music. They love singing. This is part of our culture.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, it's wonderful. Really. Then you should do the choir immediately.
Oh
Yeah.
well, like in terms of starting a choir, with this, I'm assuming this is all virtual then. Virtual.
Yeah, we did.
It's not in person. You can.
That is the thing, if people are living in remote areas and they can't come to a place. Yeah. We for the moment we have it in person in Montreal.
Oh,
But
okay, okay,
yeah, yeah. But
okay.
I think considering the fact that you don't find so many people in a place, yes, who want to join a choir, or at least
Mm-hmm.
you could offer that as a start, and then you put up a virtual
Mm-hmm.
choir. But it's quite different. So virtual choirs for the moment are suffer from the fact that you can't really sing together. It's
Okay.
because the time lag. This is again about time, that the internet is giving you the time lag. So finally, what choirs during the pandemics did, there was the choir director who sang and showed what to sing, and then each choir member at home sang individually, maybe with muting his sound, so you can't hear the others. That is something that is
Mm,
uh,
I
yeah,
see. Okay.
impoverishing the experience quite a lot.
I
And
see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and there are
Yeah.
some technical possibilities that are currently, we are exploring that too. With in the Singwell network, for example, they're exploring that, how to set up a virtual choir with so everyone can sing together. But it seems quite demanding in terms of technical issues. So it
Yeah,
is
I
also
see.
not for everyone to get your own home studio
No.
on your computer, and so for the
So
time
true.
being, we don't have a real good solution for virtual choirs.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. But all present this idea to the new, to to the Newfoundland Labrador Stuttering Association,
Hmm.
and I'll get their feedback on purposes starting up a choir of people who started in in the area,
Yeah.
St. John's area. So okay, so so I'll talk to the board about this as well.
I would.
As a starter.
We would
Yeah.
be happy to advise. So we have just one choir running for the moment. So it's more like a group singing, a singing group. Yeah. So it's very collaborative. We have music. It's in collaboration with this. It's with the Centre des Musiciens du Monde. So it's world music, a center for world music, and the choir director also chooses pieces from all over the world. It's like the folk music of different countries, which were made to get people together to interact also. So there are some chanting songs where two groups chant with each other, or it's also interactive. There are movements that is it's quite fun. And also improvisation a little. So it's a concept which is very dynamic, and it's good for 10 people or more. But we had sometimes during the winter we had people who got sick, so we had just 6, 7 people.
Of course.
It just was also working, so we were positive.
So Simon, would you email me some information on like how, what was involved with starting up a choir, things like that? Just a little some more information, and I'll run that by the Newfoundland Library Studying Association.
Definitely. And I'm sure also Singwell will help with that, the network. I can include the information about that, because we want to give advice how to do it, but we're in dialogue, we're just learning about all of this. So it would be
so really, Simon, this is a whole brand new territory for all of us.
Yes.
Singing and music, things like that. So it's a whole new it's a whole new area.
Yeah. Maybe one thing that I could already say, because we're waiting for the end of the second session to have a look at the results of the choir. But what we could already see is that we had all the members of the first choir reported a significant decrease in self-stigmatization. So we were including this measure because we think that stigma is one of the most important aspects of stuttering in our society. So also how people see themselves and vice versa of societal attitudes and beliefs. So we saw that the choir activity was really interfering with that dimension, and that people in the choir showed less self-stigma after the choir experience. So that was very encouraging to see that. And we will see if that stays like that after the second session. But
that sounds wonderful.
It's worthwhile to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Simone, for any of our listeners who are interested in completing that survey you were talking about,
yes,
their perception. Well, is there a link you can share now?
Yes, we have a link. Yeah, I can direct them to the page, and you have just to submit your email address and you get the whole survey. It's a 15 minutes thing, or 10 to 15 minutes. It's not really long. Yeah.
Okay. So would they Google the Singwell project just to start this survey?
Yeah, I can if you have a possibility to include the link.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they want to Google, it's on the page of Singwell. It's singwell.ca. And then there's a part that says "Get involved," and at the bottom of this page, you find the current studies, and the survey is one of the links you can click on. Yeah, singwell.ca. Get involved. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Simone, on fortunately, our time is up now. And but do you have any final words for our listeners before we close?
Yeah, I would tend to encourage everyone who who loves to do music or who likes to sing just to do it. Because even if research is not yet there to know what exactly it does to stuttering, or I think for individually, it really is something that is such an enriching experience that you should just try it. Even if it's at home for yourself, or try to sing with someone you really like, you see you will feel better. And we are in the future, we are really interested in experiences people stutter are making with music and with singing, and what they think that could add to their experience with others and with stuttering. So I would be really interested in knowing about it too.
Oh, wonderful. And, I'll close now, Simone, but if, if you feel that there's any way that I can help, just call on me,
Thank you so much, Greg. That is so appreciated. I enjoyed so
Okay.
much this interview, and hope to talk to you
Oh yeah, I mean
in the
this.
near future.
I'm thinking now. So I mean, this is part one. We will have another part 2 and 3. Don't worry about that. Okay. So thank you very much for being part of this conversation this morning.
Thank you very much.